This is a nether portal. Yeah, that looks about right. And even though they've been in the game for over 10 years at this point, they still look exactly the same as the day they were added. Until today. We're going to be spending the next 200 days transforming this nether portal into something truly spectacular to help kickstart the beginnings of our brand new nether hub, all in hardcore Minecraft. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video to see how we did it, and who knows, maybe you'll even get to see us almost die a few times. It is good to be back in the hardcore world. What's not good is that it's almost day 400 and we're still only using diamond gear, and that's just not going to cut it anymore. So before we get started doing anything else in the world, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves kitted out with full netherite gear. And since we now have an infinite supply of gunpowder thanks to the raid farm we built last episode, I think I have an idea for how I want to go about doing it. First, we'll grab a few of these, and we'll also need a bit of sand. That looks like it should be enough. Then we'll do a bit of crafting. Yeah, I think that'll do the trick. And you can probably already tell where this is going. But before we take our TNT to the nether and start blowing everything up, we're going to brew ourselves up some fire resistance potions so that we won't have to worry about any lava while we're collecting the ancient debris. And before we can brew any potions, we're going to need some nether wart. Since we didn't grab any last episode, we'll have to go back to the nether to get some.
One was
the nether wart room. Nether wart has been acquired. Now we'll head on back to brew the potions. Sweet. Now we've got our potions and a shulker box full of TNT, so let's head over to the bottom of the nether. And while we're digging down, I'll go over the plan we have. For us to convert all of our gear into netherite, we'll need 20 netherite bars, 10 for each of us. And to craft each bar of netherite, we'll need 4 pieces of ancient debris, which means in total we'll have to collect at least 80 pieces of ancient debris to be able to convert everything. And I think what we'll do is just dig out a really long tunnel, and then we'll just place in a whole bunch of TNT while we're walking back. Now all we've got to do is light it and watch it go. And we're already seeing a few pieces of ancient debris. And yes, I replaced the ancient debris texture with my channel icon. I actually got the idea from Wumba, and it really helps it to stick out against all the other blocks. Now that all the TNT is blown up, we can go through and mine up all the ancient debris. So I have 8 pieces of ancient debris. How much do you have, Lee?
I have 11.
It's only been about 20 minutes and we're already at almost 1/4 of the amount we need. Now we'll just keep repeating this until we blow up every piece of TNT that we brought, or just until we get tired of mining for ancient debris. And I know we said we were going to blow up all the TNT we brought, but we've been doing this for 3 hours already, and we found way more ancient debris than we need, so we're just going to go ahead and call this done for now. Don't worry though, there will be plenty more blowing up of TNT in the future that you won't want to miss out on. Okay, now that we're back at spawn, we can go ahead and grab some of our blast furnaces to smelt down all of our ancient debris. And while that's working on smelting down, we can go ahead and mine up a bunch of the nether gold ore we collected from earlier to get all the gold we'll need. Almost 2 stacks of ancient debris. Let's see how many bars this makes us. 30 bars of netherite. And this is officially the most amount of netherite I've ever held at once. We can even make 3 blocks of netherite out of this. That's only 161 blocks away from having enough for a full netherite beacon. Alright, now we have our netherite bars ready. All we have left to get now are the netherite upgrade templates. These bad boys have a chance to spawn in chests scattered around bastions that can be found randomly around the nether. So after taking some time to brew up a few more fire resistance potions and beat up a child, we were ready to head off to the nether and search for a bastion. And luckily for us, it looks like there's one not too far away from our nether portal. We just need to get in, loot everything, and get out. Don't want a repeat of what happened in the last hardcore world. Not here, not in here. There we go, there's the template. And a netherite bar as well, that's awesome. Okay, then we've got what we needed, plus a little extra, so let's go ahead and get on out of here. Alright then, we've acquired our first few upgrade templates, so we only need 18 more for us to be able to convert all of our gear. Yay! The good thing is, we only needed to find one of them naturally since we can duplicate them legally using diamonds to get more. And to duplicate the rest of the templates, we'll need 126 diamonds or just under 2 stacks of diamonds. Yeah, this is going to be quite a bit more expensive than last time. We can go ahead and craft a few more with the handful of diamonds we've gathered over the first 2 episodes, but it's not going to be nearly enough to craft all the remaining templates we need. And unfortunately for us, unlike our diamond tools and armor, we won't be able to just trade with our villagers to get them. So it looks like we're going back to doing some good old-fashioned mining. And we'll
Hey, he's on.
There we go. We now have all 20 upgrade templates plus one extra to save for later. So I guess we can go ahead and upgrade all of our gear to netherite. Okay. Finally, it's been way too long since I've been able to use netherite tools. Well, now that we finally have our netherite tools, we can get started working on the main project we're doing today. I've always been a fan of super over-the-top builds for very simple things, and so that's exactly what we're going to be doing for our nether portal. So here's what I'm thinking. We'll get a giant pit and decorate it to look like a giant meteor crater, maybe even add some giant spikes around it or something. That'll look cool. And then we'll have the meteorite in the center to use as our portal. Unfortunately, before we can get started doing any of that, we'll need to gather up some resources. Because even after surviving over 400 days in this world and having all of these shulkers here full of junk, we don't have any of the materials we need to build it. And I think the best way to go about doing it is to build up some farms first, and then once those are up and running, we'll go through and gather up the rest of the materials we need by hand. Okay, I think for the first farm, we'll start off with something fairly easy to get, which is going to be mud, and we'll do that by building up a compact mud converter. This one is designed by El Mango, and honestly, it was just the very first thing that popped up when I searched for one. It fit our needs, and we already had all the materials for it laying around. And this thing is super easy to use. I'll just go ahead and load this up with all the dirt we want to convert, grab some to put in my offhand, and then I'll just sit here and hold both left and right click to get it started. And after only a few minutes of holding my mouse buttons down while I enjoyed a few pizza rolls, we had already converted all the dirt we added into mud, which means we can go ahead and check it off our list. Okay then, that's the first of the 3 farms down. Next we'll move on to getting the light gray and black wool we'll need. And to do that, we'll be building some automatic wool farms. We'll be going with the 24 sheep version of ENX04's wool farms, so we won't have to AFK for very long. And thankfully, just like the mud converter, we had all the materials we needed to build it already. We were just missing the 48 sheep needed to fill them both. And other than the sheep being a huge pain to deal with... Oh, no!
When you say no, I really hope it's not you almost dying.
No, it's just I've somehow found a 1x1 pit that was 5 blocks in the hole, so all the sheep and me fell in. We really didn't run into any other complications while building it. Sweet, now both of the wool farms are up and running. We've already gotten a bit of wool collected. We're just going to need to leave them running for a few hours, and then we should have all the wool we need. And now that those are done and running in the background, we can move on to building the last farm we'll need for now, a sand duper. We'll be going with this design by Illyrio because it's super compact, super fast, and just like all the other farms we've built so far, we already have all the materials for it. This should be everything we need. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is go out and find a new end portal since I want to leave our first one alone for now. Now we'll go ahead and clear out the portal room to make space for the machine. Now that the room is clear, we're going to go ahead and set up a chunk loader for the farm. We're going with this simple design by Dark, which will help keep the sand duper loaded while we're in the end. Now the chunk loader is up and running, so we can go ahead and build up the actual sand duper. Ta-da! But before we can actually run the farm, we need to go set up something to collect all the items that get sent to the end. First, we'll set up a place to put the storage since we are just floating over the void right now. That should work. And to set up the actual storage, we're going to have to use something called silly string to be able to collect the items, which basically means we replace the end platform with a bunch of tripwire hooks and string, and then we go through and break a very specific pattern into it with some shears. And somehow that keeps the obsidian platform from regenerating. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know why this works, I just know that it does and that we need to use it for this specific duper. And to check and make sure it's working, we can head through the exit portal, yippee, and then travel back to the end. And there we go, it didn't regenerate. Now that our silly string is working, we can go ahead and get our temporary storage for our sand duper set up. It's not going to be anything fancy since we aren't going to be running this thing for more than just a few minutes at a time. So for now, we're just going to throw a handful of hoppers and double chests down, and that should be plenty of storage for what we need. All right, we've got the duper, chunk loader, and the storage set up, so we should be ready to get this thing up and running. We'll go and head back over to the overworld. Whee! Now we'll load in the blocks we want more of, which in our case is going to be black concrete powder. Next, we'll make sure our chunk loader is running. And all we have to do is flick this lever here and it'll start running. Now we can head over to the end and watch it work. Just look at all that concrete powder flowing in. Now we just need to leave this thing running for a minute or two.
Help!
That's probably long enough. And now we can go ahead and turn the duper off. And the chunk loader. Okay, let's go see how much concrete powder we got. Yeah, that should be more than enough concrete powder. I guess we can go ahead and call the sand duper finished. And with that done, we've finished gathering up all the resources that we needed to build farms for. Now we can move on to collecting the rest of the resources that we don't have farms for. Okay, first things first, before we do any more resource collecting, I'm gonna try and fix the lag issues we've been having on the world recently because it's really starting to bug me. So after running around and killing all the animals I could find for about an hour just to realize I had accidentally left my entity distance set to 500, I went ahead and chopped down a whole section of forest over by the village to craft more shulker boxes to hold all the new items we'll be collecting since we're always running out of wood. I also thought I'd mention that I maxed out my bow while I was letting the wool farms run for a bit, so that's pretty cool too. Now let's get back to gathering resources, starting with blackstone. Yeah, I'm already done collecting it. That took a really long time. It looks like the next few materials are all just going to be more mining, so I'm just going to get them all done at the same time. Why?
I wanted to do that.
There we go, we've got our stone, andesite, and cobbled deep slate done. I also made sure to grab enough stone for all the chiseled stone bricks we'll need, so let's go ahead and craft those up as well. Looks like the next material will be coarse dirt, and there should be a mega taiga not too far from here that we can grab it all from. Now we're going to be switching gears a bit since the next thing we need to get is black concrete. We already have all the black concrete powder we need from running our sand duper earlier, but since I don't want to have to manually convert almost a shulker box worth of black concrete powder into concrete, I'm going to save myself some time and build up a concrete converter. We'll be going with a pretty compact one I found designed by Big Booty. I wish I was making that up. And we should have all the items we need for it already. So let's go ahead and build it. And after loading it up and running it for just a minute or two, we had converted all the black concrete we needed. All right, next thing we need is the black and light gray wool, and I'm hoping that we have enough since it's been collecting in the background this whole time. Awesome, okay, that should be more than enough. Next, we'll take some of the cobbled deep slate we collected earlier and craft it into all the deep slate tiles we need. And then we'll stick a bunch of them into furnaces to smelt them into cracked deep slate tiles. Okay, before my tools completely shatter, we'll take a quick break to head over to the Guardian Farm to repair all my gear. And after taking another hour or so to collect the remaining handful of items on our list, I can confidently say our materials list is now complete. After just a few days of work, we now have all the blocks we'll need to finally get started building the crater. And I can already hear you asking yourself, where the heck are you even going to build this thing? Which is a fair question. And luckily for us, the answer is just a short fly away. Here it is, our future meteor crater. I stumbled across this pit back when we were looking at seeds to use for our world, and with it being just on the other side of the mountains next to the village that we built, I immediately knew that I wanted to do something with it. So let's go ahead and build ourselves a platform at the bottom of the pit to get all our materials set up. But before we can start building the crater, we're gonna need to run around and get the area ready for it. And the first thing we'll do is get rid of all the cherry blossom trees that are currently growing around it. There we go, all the trees have been removed and now we're left with a blank slate for us to work with. Now we just need to go in and make this pit actually look like a crater, which means we're gonna have to go in and get it into the right shape before we can start decorating it. And to make sure we get the shape of the crater correct, we're going to be using the mod Lightmatica since it'll visibly tell us which blocks are in places that they shouldn't be. And by using a schematic of the final crater build, we can see exactly which places we need to dig the terrain back to get it to fit. So now we can just work our way around the pit, sculpting it into the correct shape as we go along. I can already tell this is going to take a while to get done, so we better get started. We are now halfway done with the terraforming, so we should start seeing it flattening out a bit soon. And with those last few blocks placed in, we are done with the terraforming for the crater. Now I know this still looks pretty messy and not really like a crater just yet, and that's because we were only taking blocks away from the terrain, not adding any to it, which is why we're going to be moving on to building in all the details for the crater now. Hopefully this part will go a lot faster than the terraforming because instead of breaking blocks, we'll just be placing them down instead. So we should just be able to grab a handful of all the different materials we'll need, turn on Lightmatica, and start running around placing in all the blocks. Once again, we are now at the halfway point, so let's go ahead and get this finished. Alright, we finally finished placing in the last few blocks of the crater just after hitting day 500. Time to go and see how it looks so far. Yeah, that was totally worth it. This thing looks sick. I'm so happy with how it's turning out so far. Alright, now we've got the crater fully built and detailed, which means we can move on to the next part of the project, adding in the giant spikes. The idea I have in mind for the crater is that the meteorite that impacted and caused it was somehow infused with energy from the nether, and it started seeping into the area at the base of the crater, causing these giant spikes to start forming out of the ground. I know it doesn't really make any sense, but I thought it'd look really cool, so we're gonna do it. Now there's good and bad news. The good news is that this time around we only need to get 5 materials for all the spikes. The bad news is that we'll be needing over 2,000 obsidian, over 1,600 crying obsidian, and almost 600 blocks of coal for this build. Oh boy, I do love making everything super hard for myself. I think we'll go ahead and start with the 1,604 crying obsidian since it's the thing that'll take us the most work to get. And while we could run around the world and just mine up the crying obsidian from any ruined portals we see, I actually want to get this video out before the end of this year. So we're going to be going down the piglin bartering route since they have about an 8.71% chance to drop anywhere from 1 to 3 crying obsidian. And by using a simple piglin bartering farm, we should be able to get all the crying obsidian we need just by trading them a whole bunch of gold. Thanks to my extremely scientific research of messing around with piglin trading and creative a bunch, I've calculated that we'll have to trade around 3 to 5 shulkers of gold to get all the crying obsidian we need. And since I really don't feel like going out and mining all that gold by hand, we'll be building a pretty fast gold farm to take care of the gold for us. We'll be going with this design by Dashpum, and it's definitely way over the top for our needs, but since we're planning on playing on this world for as long as we can, I think it's definitely worth it to put in the extra effort to get us a super fast one now. Well, I guess we should go ahead and get started gathering up the materials for the gold farm, starting with 10,064 magma blocks, 333 warp stem, 20 soul sand, 1 soul soil, 4,585 stone, 618 redstone dust, some slime balls, 2,039 sand, 991 iron ingots, 816 oak logs, 700 obsidian, 643 cobblestone, 212 iron blocks, 128 string, 66 nether quartz, 31 cacti, and 1 oak leaves. Now that we have all the raw materials gathered, we can go ahead and use them to craft up all the components we'll need for the farm. And after crafting up the very last honey block we needed, we finally have every single item we need to get this gold farm built. Well, almost every single item. Just like the raid farm we built last episode, this farm requires 3 beacons to be able to run. And unlike last episode, I honestly can't be bothered to go through the whole process of killing wither skeletons to get wither skeleton skulls, to summon a wither, to kill, to get another star 3 times in a row. So instead, I'm just gonna go and steal the 3 beacons from our raid farm since we won't be running it anytime soon, and we'll just call it a day. Alright, now that we actually have all the materials we need to build the gold farm, we can go head to the nether to get started. First thing we're going to do is relocate our spawn nether portal onto the nether roof since that's where we're going to be building the gold farm, plus it'll make traveling around much easier since it's completely flat and empty. So we'll go ahead and mark down the coordinates of our old nether portal, and then we'll make our way up to the top of the nether so we can set up to get on top of the bedrock ceiling. Getting up there should be easy enough using a few ladders and an ender pearl after finding a thin spot in the bedrock. And before we do anything else, we'll use this contraption right here to break through the bedrock we just teleported through. Okay, let's see if I can remember how to do this. I forgot to click. I panicked.
What was that?
Shush. Okay, wait, give me a second. I gotta fix this. There we go. Now we have easy access to travel between the nether and the nether roof. And we can go ahead and build up the new portal using the coordinates we wrote earlier. Perfect. Now that we've got our portal situation figured out, we can start working on finding the right location to build this gold farm in. This farm works best when built in a nether waste biome at least 100 blocks away from any other biomes in all directions. So after checking out the landscape below the bedrock for a bit, we found a super large nether waste biome that was perfect for what we were looking for. All we need to do now is get our schematics set up, lay out our shulker boxes of materials, and we should be ready to start building this thing. Okay, and with that last bit of glass placed in, we're finished building up the spawn platforms on the nether side. The next thing we need to do for the farm is to set up the water elevator in the overworld. So we'll go ahead and write down the coordinates of this specific nether portal right here, multiply the X and Z coordinates by 8, and then we'll light the portal and head through it to the overworld. Oh, subspace bubble. We'll go ahead and quickly break the portal that generated here. And now we just need to go and set up a new nether portal at the new coordinates we just got. And we should be good to start building up the water elevator. Now, building the water elevator should have been easy. I mean, it's just a giant tube that goes straight up, floating really high in the sky. That was until the phantoms started showing up.
Oh my gosh.
And I'll just let you see how that went for us. And that's when it happened.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, I officially popped my first totem. And Lee insists he told me to be very careful while we were building it.
Don't fall off.
But I don't remember that happening. But hey, what's important is that Lee popped his totem first, which obviously means I'm better than him.
What the?
And other than me popping my very first totem, building up the rest of the water elevator went fairly smoothly, and in no time we had it fully built up and ready to run. Which means we can get ourselves back to the nether to keep working on the farm by building up the killing chamber. Now this farm uses a special mechanic called boat looting in the killing chamber. I'll link a video by MD in the description for anyone that wants to know more about it, since it explains the whole mechanic way better than I can. But all you really need to know is that it gives us higher spawn rates and also allows us to take advantage of the looting enchantment at the same time. And both of those things combined help us get super high item drop rates from this thing. So let's go ahead and get it set up. And the killing chamber should be finished now. We've got the portal linked up, the boats in place, and our AFK spot set up. But before we can get the farm up and running, we need to add in the storage system. Since this thing spits out over 225,000 items per hour, we're gonna need a pretty beefy storage system to keep up with it. So we're gonna be throwing a whole bunch of shulker box loaders on it, which should be plenty of storage for it. Well, I guess we better get to building it. And there we go, we've got the storage added in now. We have one box loader at the front for the gold ingots, and the rest are going to be for gold nuggets, which might look a bit overkill, but trust me, this thing spits out gold nuggets like it's nothing, so we really need this many. Okay, then all we should have to do now is build up our beacons, and light up all the portals. And with that last portal lit, we've finished the gold farm. Now, even though the gold farm is finished, we still aren't able to run it just yet. We're gonna need to go and get a brand new sword specifically for us to use with this farm, since the swords we both have already use enchantments that'll break our boat looting setup. Looks like we're heading back to spawn to get a new sword. And there we go, we've now got our brand new sword for the gold farm. Now we can go back and give this farm a quick test run to make sure everything is working properly. I'm also going to get rid of this slime block right here so we can collect some drops, since we still need to set up our filters for our shulker box loaders. And just like the raid farm we built last episode, this farm requires us to use the carpet mod to time our inputs, so we'll go ahead and type in our commands to get it up and running. Alright, it's been running for about a minute or two, and I don't think anything broke, which means this farm is working. And we should have more than enough items collected at the bottom now, so let's go get our item filter set up. There we go. All the filters should be set up now. All we need to do now is stock up our storage with some empty shulkers and we can finally call this gold farm complete. And thankfully for us, Lee always keeps a shulker box full of shulker box supplies for moments just like this. So we should be ready in no time. Yeah, that's definitely not going to be enough. Looks like we'll need to take a quick visit to our shulker farm. Okay, hopefully this time this will be enough. There we go. Now we've got a good backlog of empty shulkers here. It's nowhere near full, but I think it'll be fine. And I think that means we're finally ready to give this farm an actual AFK session. So I'll go ahead and set a timer for 30 minutes and we'll be back when it's done. All right, there's good news and bad news. The good news is, after condensing all the nuggets down into ingots, we ended up with just under 3 shulkers of gold ingots, which for only 30 minutes of AFKing is perfect. The bad news is that this thing absolutely eats through empty shulkers, and our empty shulker hopper line is already starting to empty, which means we're actually going to have to go through and get this thing fully stocked up with empty shulkers if we want to keep running it. Yay! Okay, hopefully this time around it'll be enough. Okay, you know what? We almost got the empty storage completely full. I think this is gonna be enough for now. We aren't even planning on running this farm for extended periods of time just yet, so we should be fine with this many. Okay, now that we don't have to worry about empty shulker boxes anymore, let's get back to running this farm. And after running the farm for just under an hour, we've ended up with 6.5 shulker boxes full of gold ingots. So I think it's safe to say we're not going to run out of gold anytime soon. Okay, now that we're done with the gold farm, we can move on to the next farm we'll be building. And this time we're going to be giving ourselves a bit of a break and going with something a bit simpler, which is ENX04's instant bartering farm. We should already have most of the materials for it already, so we can go ahead and gather together what we've got. So we almost have everything we need. We're just missing 2 things. The first one being 1 turtle egg. And we can just fly back to where we got the turtle eggs for our gold farm and quickly get another one. All right, the last thing we're missing now is 128 carved pumpkins. And you'll see why we need them once we get the farm built up. But right now we need to go fly around a bit and see if we can find any pumpkins laying around. There we go. We've got our 2 stacks of pumpkins. Now we just need to lay them out and get to shearing them. Sweet. Now we've got all the items we need for the farm now. I'm just going to craft myself a pair of gold boots real quick and we can head on over to the nether. This farm needs to be built in a crimson forest, which is totally fine because there's one right next to our nether spawn. We just need to make our way up towards the nether roof. And now we can get started building the farm. That should be it. Next, we need to go and set up our AFK spot so the piglins can spawn in. And now we wait. I think that was the last pumpkin. Time to go get them into their pods. And after losing a couple piglins the first time around, I ended up getting all the piglins into their correct spots. A few still managed to escape in the end, but honestly, I don't really care because we still have over 100 piglins left in the pods, and that should be plenty. Well, let's give this thing a go and see how well it works. I'll go ahead and grab us a few shulkers of gold. And we'll start off with giving them 1 shulker of gold and we'll see how that goes. Okay, chill. I was just trying to pick up all the stuff you dropped for me. And we're already out of empty shulkers. Yeah, okay, this just isn't gonna cut it. We're gonna need an actual storage system for this farm if we want to keep using it. Thankfully, ENX04 has included a super basic storage system in the world download for the farm, so we're gonna go ahead and use that. I know this whole setup is pretty clunky at the moment, but I'll definitely be upgrading the storage for it in the future since we aren't going to be using it a lot right now. And after running the farm and sorting through all the drops for just under an hour, we finally had all the crying obsidian we needed. Also, I didn't realize just how much stuff we get out of this thing. I mean, look how much blackstone, soul sand, nether quartz we have now. It's crazy. Now that we have more than enough crying obsidian, I think we can say we're done with the bartering farm for now, which means we can move on to the next material we'll need to get, which is 992 purple concrete. This should be easy enough to get. All we have to do is go and put purple concrete powder in our sand duper. First, we'll make sure the chunk loader is running, set our spawn point. No, my statistics. If you didn't know, after we hit day 100, I decided that I would no longer be sleeping in the hardcore world because I thought it'd be a fun challenge, even though Lee absolutely hates all the phantoms it causes. And by sleeping in that bed for just a split second, I accidentally reset my time since last rest statistic back to 0. Man. Oh well. Ignoring my accidental nap, I went ahead and switched the sand that was in the sand duper with the purple concrete powder we have, so we should be ready to turn the sand duper on and head over to the end. And after a minute or so, we should have more than enough purple concrete powder. Now all we have to do is run this through our concrete converter. And with that last bit collected, we can go ahead and check the purple concrete off our materials list. That should be the last time we need to use the duper for this build, which is important because we'll need to build something in its place to get the next material we'll need. 2,085 obsidian. And to get it, we're going to be using, you guessed it, another ENX04 farm. This time, his instant obsidian farm. It's simple to build, and I should be able to AFK it for a while to get us more than enough obsidian for the foreseeable future. I'm not gonna lie, this farm does make me a little bit nervous since it does involve using a wither, but we're still gonna use it because I refuse to mine up all the obsidian by hand. As usual, the first thing we'll do is go and gather together all the resources we'll need for the farm. And after getting distracted chopping a full shulker worth of spruce logs, I was able to finish crafting up all the redstone components we needed. Okay, we should have all the materials for the farm and storage in these shulkers right here, so let's move on to actually building the farm. We'll go ahead and fly over to our other end portal since we need a fresh one and the other one has our sand duper. I'll go ahead and clear out the portal room. And just like the sand duper, we'll need a chunk loader for this farm, so I'll go ahead and set one up. Now that we have our chunk loader built and ready, we can move on to building the overworld side of our obsidian farm. I know it doesn't look like much, but this is what makes the whole farm run. And that's pretty much it for the overworld side for now, so I guess we can move on to building the storage for it over in the end. First, we'll need to go ahead and clear out our temporary storage for our sand duper since we won't be needing it right now. And after quickly lining up the schematic with our obsidian platform, we can go ahead and get the storage built. But of course, as soon as I stop recording, something has to happen. I had paused the recording to try and save some disk space since this was all going to be a quick time lapse anyways, and unfortunately my Shadowplay decided to record the wrong program so I don't have a clip of it, but I did manage to catch it on the replay file so you all still get to watch it back exactly how it happened. Yeah, I somehow literally slipped off the edge of the hopper and fell into the void without my elytra on. Now, obviously you didn't get to hear any audio from when it happened, but I can assure you I was freaking out at the time. Thankfully, I was able to get my elytra out of my inventory in time and nothing actually ended up happening, but yeah, that kind of freaked me out a bit. Other than that, the storage that I came up with for the obsidian farm was pretty straightforward to build and I was already finished building it in no time. I just need to set up the AFK spot and the farm should almost be ready to use. Okay, we've got the obsidian farm fully complete now and should hopefully be fully functional. All we've got to do now is fill up the filters on our shulker box loaders and get the 3 wither skeleton skulls to summon the wither. So we'll go ahead and head back to the nether. And first we'll head over to our bartering farm to grab the few stacks of obsidian we need for the filters. And then we'll go ahead and make our way back over to where we got all of our wither skeleton skulls last episode. I got 3. That was like 4 minutes. Oh, well, I'm out. I'm leaving. And after quickly setting up the item filters for our shulker box loader and pre-stocking it full of empty shulkers, we were finally ready to give the farm a go. I just need to set up the timer for it in the overworld, which should give us about 5 minutes or so before the farm starts up. Now we can head back over to the end, spawn in the wither, quickly get into our AFK spot, Once it's fully spawned in, we can go ahead and shoot it once with our bow to aggro it to us. And once our timer starts up, the farm should start running, which means all we need to do now is sit here for the next few hours until our timer runs out and shuts off the farm. Or so I thought. You see, this farm has a few parts that need to be on and running before you start the farm for it to work. Those being the chunk loader in the overworld and these droppers underneath the obsidian platform in the end. And if either one of them isn't turned on before the farm starts running, we won't be able to collect any obsidian. So it'd be really bad if somehow both of them weren't turned on, right? Y'all will not believe it. I forgot to turn them on. Well, that's okay. All I need to do is summon an iron golem to get rid of the wither, go back and get more skulls, make sure everything is on, and we can start the farm up again. It's fine. It'll be fine. It'll be... You've got to be kidding me. Maybe I can just pick the block back up and fix it. Man. Great. How did this happen? So yeah, in trying to get our obsidian farm up and running, I managed to let the wither escape. And now we have a wither running loose in the end. And there's only one thing I can do now. I'm gonna have to fight it. I can't really do anything else. Okay, here goes nothing, I guess. And after heading back to spawn to grab up some extra food and arrows, I was ready to take on the wither in a real fight this time. Let's go and fix my mistake. Oh, I did it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah, it honestly wasn't that bad. I'm just a huge wimp. But there you have it. For those 3 people that wanted me to do an actual wither fight, you finally got what you wanted. And I probably won't do it again anytime soon. Not that I can't do it, because obviously I can. I just don't want to. Now that we've got the runaway wither problem taken care of, I guess it's time to get ready to run the farm again. Which means more wither skeleton hunting. I have a feeling this time it's going to take a bit longer. 1 out of 3. Again. There's 2. 1 more. Oh, 3. Finally. Now that we've got all the wither skulls we needed for the second time in a row, we can head back over to the end portal to get ready for take 2. Alright, I guess it's time to try and get this farm up and running again. I have the chunk loader running and all my materials ready. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can't possibly let the wither escape again, right? So you're probably wondering, what the heck could have happened this time? And I don't want to talk about it. I totally didn't just forget to turn on the droppers. I forgot again, and then built the iron golem incorrectly when I realized that I forgot to turn them on for the second time in a row. This is why I can't be left unsupervised. Thankfully, the damage done to the storage was fairly minimal, and after a few minutes of making repairs, it was back to being fully functional. Guess it's time to go wither skeleton hunting for the 3rd time. Yay! There we go. Finally. Final skull acquired. Hopefully this will be the last time this happens. And this time I'm going to quadruple check and make sure everything is running correctly before I do anything else. These are all working. This looks to be correct. I have a bunch of iron golem materials just in case I mess up again. Turn on our chunk loader. Go ahead and set up our timer. I think everything is on and running. I really hope this works this time. Now it's time to summon the wither again. Gotta hurry and get into position. Hit it once with an arrow. And now I just have to sit and wait until that first item in the timer despawns to make sure it's working. And so I sat there waiting to see if I had started the farm correctly with no idea how long it would take or if it would even start. I couldn't possibly have messed it up again, right? It's working. Oh my goodness. I honestly was expecting it to break again. That took way too long. Thankfully, 3rd time's the charm, and I finally got the farm up and running without a hitch. Well, now I just have to sit here for the next 10 hours, so I guess I'll see you all in a bit. Okay, it's currently 4 a.m. Been right around 10 hours since I left, so any minute now this thing should stop running. There it goes. Now the farm is off. Okay, moment of truth. Will I fail building the iron golem for a third time in a row? And there we go. It's finally over. Now to grab the nether star before I forget, and let's go see how much obsidian we've got. Ooh. Aw, nice. Yeah, we got 3 full double chests, which is pretty much what I was expecting out of this. But that is really nice. That should be more than enough obsidian for what we'll need. All right, let me get my inventory cleaned up and then we can move on to getting the next material we'll need. Now you may have noticed that even though I've killed 3 withers up to this point, I only have 2 nether stars. And that's because during the chaos of the second wither fight, I was so focused on killing the wither and not dying that I completely forgot about the nether star and it ended up getting swept off into the void. Oh well. We still get 2 more beacons out of it, and honestly, I'd rather pretend like that second wither fight just never even happened. But now we can go ahead and grab the 2 shulkers of obsidian we need, and we can make our way back to spawn. Okay, next material we'll need is 498 purple glazed terracotta, which should be easy enough to get. We'll just fly ourselves over to the nearest mesa biome and get started mining. How much do you have? Because I have over 4 stacks now, so I'm good.
Oh, I have way over 4 stacks.
Okay, well, we can head back now.
Okay.
Now that we have all the terracotta, we just need to get it dyed purple. So I went and bone mealed a bunch of rose bushes to get the red dye, while Lee went and traded with our clerics to get lapis for the blue dye. And then after crafting it all together, we've got all our purple terracotta. Now we just need to get it all smelted down and we can go ahead and mark it off our materials list. And with the purple glazed terracotta complete, we just have one last material we need before we can build the spikes. 589 blocks of coal. And I know you can get coal from wither skeletons, but I don't really feel like building another farm right now. So yeah, we're going to be mining for a while. Finally, we have all the coal we need, plus a little extra just in case. We're done. After what was probably one of the most painful resource gathering sessions I've ever had the displeasure of experiencing, we're finally ready to add our spikes around the crater. Let's do this. And there's the last block. Now the spikes are completely finished. This is already starting to look so cool. Okay, now we've got the crater and the spikes done. All we need to do now is build up the actual nether portal and the project will be finished. And since we're making the terrain around it look like an impact crater, I think it just makes sense to have the actual portal be the meteorite that caused it. So now that we have the idea for what we want to build, you know what happens next. It's time for some more material gathering. And since we built all of those farms earlier, this time it shouldn't take us very long.
Ow.
So let's get to it. Okay, so we've got all the materials we already have farms for collected now. All we have left to collect are even more coal blocks and a bunch of the various amethyst buds. So it looks like we're gonna have to do even more mining. That's the last one we needed, which means we finally have all the materials for the portal. And so after flying back to the crater and laying all our materials out, we were ready to get started building up the meteorite. Okay, so I'm thinking the first thing we'll do is go in and lower down the middle section a bit so it isn't as flat, since there is going to be a huge meteorite sitting there. Now that we've got the center of the crater reshaped, I thought it'd be cool to go through and add in some cracks and smaller spikes along the bottom, spreading out from the center to make it look like the nether portal meteor is slowly corrupting the area around it. It's all starting to come together. Now, all that's left is to get the actual meteorite added in. And we'll go ahead and light all the portals. And with the last portal lit, it's done. Wow. That's a giant crater with a meteorite portal in the middle, and we built it. I still can't believe this is in our world. One last thing before we actually call this project complete, I want to go in and add a few more details around the edge of the crater since right now it's looking just a little bit empty. First, we'll go ahead and clear out some more of the trees around the crater. Then we can go in and fill in any holes that are left.
Ow.
And so we'll start here. I'll just grab a whole bunch of dirt. How did you blow something up already?
I didn't do it. Wait,
Someone clip it.
How?
No.
Literally how?
No.
Since the crater was obviously formed by a huge explosion, I think it just makes sense that there would be a few dead trees scattered around. So we'll go ahead and add a few here and there around the edge of the crater. Just like that. Now we can go in and bone meal some saplings scattered around to help fill in some more of that empty space. Okay, we're gonna go get more saplings.
Yeah, you can go get some more.
I don't have a tool that goes fast through leaves. You do. Oh.
That was an accident. My hand slipped.
Oh, I'm sure.
Let me.
See,
just
Sin believes
click
me.
that
See,
real quick.
what the? Fuck?
Where are we going, Lee?
Oh,
Did you hit me? Did I hit you or did you hit me?
who knows? What the?
And while we're at it, we can also start bone mealing the ground to get some grass and flowers in there too. Yeah, I think that really helps tie it into the surrounding land. And after going in and adding the last few details, I think we're ready to call this project complete. If you want to check out this build for yourself or any of the other builds we've built on our hardcore world so far, then please consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube channel member. I'm going to be releasing an updated world download every so often, as well as a bunch of other exclusive content for members. So if that's something you might be interested in, you can find links to both down in the description. Don't worry, I'll also be releasing a free world download once we hit day 1000, so make sure to subscribe so you won't miss it. So yeah, that's how we built one of the most over-the-top nether portals in our hardcore survival world. Now I just need to figure out what to do with the nether side of the portal.